We'll now call the meeting of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections to order. Secretary, please note that all members are present. Vice Chair Lang just stepped away for a second to go retrieve something from her office. Majority Leader Canizaro will be arriving a little late today. Please mark her present when she arrives. We've gone over all the housekeeping measures before, so I just remind everybody to silence their cell phones. And when you do speak, please state your name, spell your name, and if you're representing an organization, please state what organization you're representing. We will take public comment at the end of the hearing. We will now open the hearing on Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, and we are very lucky to have Scott Gillis from Governor Sisolak's office here to present Senate Concurrent Resolution 11. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Gillis. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. It's good to be back in Senate Legislative Operations and Elections, where one time ago, Mr. Stewart knows I spent hours and hours of my life listening to elections issues. A much more peaceful time of my life, I would say, probably. But anyhow, for the record, my name is Scott Gillis. I'm the Senior Advisor to Governor Sisolak, and I'm here today to present Senate Concurrent Resolution 11. SCR 11 will create a joint special committee of the legislature for the purpose of conducting hearings and a full analysis of the idea presented by the governor in January during his State of the State speech to create unique innovation zones in Nevada. The purpose of the governor's proposal was and is to diversify Nevada's economy and enhance our ability to attract new and innovative technologies to the state. The governor's innovation zone proposal would create a broad structure by which applicants engaged in the development of innovative technologies could apply to create an innovation zone after meeting strict standards and requirements laid out by statute, including a significant investment commitment. No tax incentives, abatements, or public investment will be part of this proposal. The projections compiled for at least one project that would take advantage of the innovation zones framework are substantial. The extent of the economic output, development output, wages, and jobs would mean tremendous economic impact for the entire state and the creation of entirely new industry within Nevada. Based on these projections and economic development potential for Nevada, the governor believed and still believes this is an idea worth pursuing and talking about. The reality is this: there are limitations that come with a biennial 120-day session, never mind one taking place in the midst of a historic pandemic that requires state officials and legislators to direct their energy to the impact of COVID and the critical responses needed by the state. It became clear in recent weeks that a proposal of this magnitude was not going to fit into this particular session. The governor believes this idea warrants and deserves a proper vetting, a proper analysis, and time to work through the complex pieces of the proposed legislation. We understand that simply cannot happen in the last month of this session. After working with leadership on the proposal laid out in SCR 11, the governor felt the best path forward to appropriately work on this proposal was the creation of an interim joint special committee, which is exactly what SCR 11 would do. Like the proposal for innovation zones itself, the method of creating this committee is also unique in its approach. Along with establishing the joint special committee to meet in the interim, the resolution also does the following things. In terms of membership, the resolution would provide the appointment of at least 6 members to the committee, 2 members of the Senate, 2 members of the Assembly, appointed by the Majority Leader and the Speaker, respectively, and 1 member from the Assembly and 1 member from the Senate, appointed by Minority Leaders. In terms of process, the committee would select its own chair and may start meeting before the end of this session if the legislation were to be passed and signed by the governor. The committee would be required to meet at least once a month in the interim. In terms of the topics that the committee would address, I think first and foremost, want to make clear the governor's innovation zones proposal, that BDR, is still being worked on. The hope and expectation in conversations with LCB was a version of that bill would be completed at some point before the end of the session. It is not the intention of the governor's office to have that particular bill heard, but rather and hopefully heard within the context of the interim joint special committee. So that joint special committee would have at least draft piece of legislation to work off of through that committee process. The committee the committee as proposed won't be limited on the issues it would like to discuss, but SCR 11 does ask the committee explicitly to study the potential community and economic benefits of innovation zones on the following: economic development and job creation, workforce development, affordable housing, water and natural resources in the environment, the impact on surrounding counties and other forms of local government, and importantly, probably most importantly, the state and local revenues and the distribution of taxes that could come through an innovation zone as proposed. And again, any other topics related to the proposal that the committee members feel is appropriate to review in that joint special committee, we'd encourage that. The more review and analysis, the better from our perspective. But allowing that to be done not under the time constraints created by the last month of a regular legislative session. In terms of the timeline, what the resolution proposes is that the committee will operate on a fairly strict timeline to complete its review and submit its recommendations regarding the creation of innovation zones in Nevada by December 31st, to the extent practicable is the language in the resolution. Unfortunately, excuse me, let me go back. At that point, what the concurrent resolution proposes is that the recommendations that come out of the joint special committee would be one of three things. No further action is believed to be necessary on innovation zones. A recommendation to submit a bill draft, which the concurrent resolution would give that committee its own bill draft to submit a pre-filed bill for the 2023 session, or the possibility of making a recommendation to bring forward the measure in a upcoming special session. Unfortunately, the unprecedented impacts of COVID-19 on Nevada have left the legislature with many critical issues to deliberate, which we see every day, and know your job is very difficult. This proposed measure is before you today as a responsible solution, we think, to the challenge of evaluating unprecedented economic development measure in a short amount of time remaining in this legislative session. We know innovation zones are unique, but they're not entirely unprecedented. Nevada could be the next example of the technological and economic success, and the governor is confident that Nevada should take the opportunity now to look at what may or may not be possible. The creation of this committee will allow legislators and stakeholders the opportunity to fully hold and participate in hearings and fully evaluate the proposal, which has this potential tremendous value for the state. In the end, the governor's intent is, and his hope is, that stakeholders, the public, and of course this legislative body are enthusiastic about this opportunity, not skeptical about a fast-track bill in the final weeks of a 120-day session. Nevadans deserve that, and the governor believes that the joint special committee, is the right solution to explore this opportunity. I urge your support for this process that will allow for a full and deliberate review of this proposal and its impacts to our state. I want to take this opportunity also to thank Majority Leader Canizaro and Speaker Frierson for their support in bringing this joint special committee proposal today. And obviously, thank you to the chair and the committee for introducing SCR 11. With that, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gillis, and appreciate all your hard work back many years ago when I was over at the Assembly Committee on Elections and you were working for Secretary of State Miller and all the great work you did there. And thank you for your work for Governor Sisolak and Michelle White and everything you guys have done to lead the state during these unprecedented times the last year and a half that I don't think any governor has had to face. So thank you, and thank you to Governor Sisolak.
Thank you, Chair.
I have a question from Vice Chair Lang.
Hi there. So I just have a couple of questions because we aren't here today to debate whether we want or don't want innovation zones. We're only here to debate and talk about the committee and if we think this committee is the right way to go and if we like the components of the committee within the bill. So I'm going to speak to that a little bit. The first thing I really want to talk about is the timeline. I think it's extremely short. If you think about moving forward after this session, we're probably going to have a special session. We probably will have a second special session for redistricting. Our committee and assembly-led ops are going to be involved in public hearings. Everything that goes with redistricting, as you know, is a pretty lengthy process. And to do all of this, and I think to do a really good job, it would be better, it would serve, well, plus everyone's going to go on vacation after the session, and you know what I mean. So I think it would better serve the committee to have the results by the end of the first quarter in 2022. So I guess I'm asking you to consider that, because I think if you want to get the best information, it shouldn't be rushed. And you know how committees go. There is, get a piece of information that leads you to ask something else, and so on and so on. Plus, I noticed in here that, and I'm happy to see this, that you're having stakeholder meetings. Those stakeholder meetings, so you're having one meeting a month, plus you're sending your members of your committee out to do stakeholder meetings. So it's very complex, and I think, you know, you have a relatively small committee, so it's going to, I don't know if you're sending the whole committee out to those meetings, but it could take a lot of time, so it might be better spread out. And then I guess I have a question about the support that you would get from, are you going to have staff support, or, because the staff's going to be involved in all the special sessions and everything. So how are you looking to get the support for the committee that you will need to have?
Through the chair to the vice chair,
Oh, and you can go directly to the senator, and I think on the staff question too, maybe I might reach out to Director Stewart, because I know he's led us through so many interims on staffing committees. Could I reach out to you, Director, and see, in terms of the staffing question, whether LCB has the staffing, if this were to pass, to staff this committee and help it meet its objectives?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Michael Stewart, LCB Research Division. So SCR 11 is, I guess what I'd maybe characterize as what we call, I don't know, I call it sort of like a one-shot interim study type of scenario. And if this were to pass, obviously, LCB would very likely staff it. We have provisions in, I think it's 218E 205 that require LCB staff to provide services if the chair of that committee is indeed a legislator. So if this is something that the legislature processes, we'd obviously provide staff for it. I think the director of the LCB would then delegate which division in LCB would be appropriate, and oftentimes we, collaborate with legal division and research and fiscal to determine who's appropriate for lead staff, and sometimes we have, joint staffing responsibilities there too. So if it passes, obviously LCB would provide whatever you guys would like to for staffing services.
Thank you very much, Director Stewart.
And then
I'm-
if I could just do a
Absolutely,
follow-up.
please go ahead, Vice Chair.
And so back to the meetings, public meetings you're going to have with the stakeholders, how do you see that working? Because I know Leg Ops is going to be traveling around the state doing public meetings as well. And so how do you see that happening? And are you going to only, are you going to limit it to groups that are just in this area, because the innovation zone will be close to here? How are you going to do that? And will it be open? Like, would you Zoom it? Would you televise it? Would you do it on the YouTube? I guess not televised probably, but the YouTube channel. I mean, how are you going to involve other people? Because I think it's more than just one county in our state. It affects our whole state.
thank you, Vice Chair. I'll try to answer the question. I think first and foremost, I will note that it is general law. Yes, there is obviously a project which everyone has read about in Story County that would look to be taking advantage of the legislation, but it would be general law legislation that could be taken advantage of anywhere throughout the state. If the appropriate financial commitments and plans were in place. So I'll note that first. In terms of how the committee will run, again, from the governor's office perspective, we would give deference to the committee on how they'd like to do that, what their bandwidth is in terms of virtual meetings, in-person meetings. As far as the stakeholder meetings, again, we'd be happy to suggest ways to do that and utilize executive branch resources to help move that along. But ultimately, it would be the legislature's joint special committee to be run as the legislature feels fit. I think from our perspective, as much in-person hearings that can happen as possible. I mean, one of the topics on here is water. We all know that's going to be a big issue with any project any innovation zone project, let alone the one in Story County. So, our hope would be, a committee meeting could happen, run like a committee meeting like this, where you could spend 2, 3, 4 hours on that topic and make sure all the invested stakeholders are heard. Issues are worked through, hopefully coming to a compromise and something that makes sense ultimately. We understand that probably the first start of this piece of legislation is not going to be what the final piece of the legislation comes out as. So we would want that deliberative process, just like a committee hearing. And, if the stakeholder public meetings were helpful, again, we would defer to the legislature on how to properly run those and make those happen. And I understand the concerns about bandwidth and resources. Come from the executive branch over the last year. We absolutely understand the difficulties there. I don't want to opine on the legislative branch's ability to staff those meetings, but obviously the governor's office and executive branch would be there to help as needed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Lang. Senator Severs-Cancer.
Thanks, Chair Ornschalt. So I just had a quick question for staff. I know that we typically have 2 or 3 studies during an interim. I don't know how many. I was asking about the bandwidth of what's typical, because I know we also do a lot of studies under interim committees, but the ones that are just full-blown studies, what do we typically have available?
This is Michael Stewart again for the record. So typically, and there's no hard, fast rule on this, it has varied over the years. Often what happens is the Assembly will generally pick about 3 studies, and the Senate will pick 3 studies for sort of 6 total studies independent of our ongoing statutory committees, such as, public lands, healthcare, education, that sort of thing. On occasion, though, we have committees that I think would fall into a different category that would be sort of other kind of special committees that happen every now and then, redistricting is one of them. That last time didn't, for example, fall into one of those 6. It was kind of a 7th one. So this could certainly fall into that category, but it really is up to the legislature. We just, if we get too many, then we run into a sort of a budget sort of staffing issue. But generally, we're able to accommodate all of the interim or all of the ongoing statutory committees, and roughly 6 or so what I call one-shot committees such as this.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Director. Senator Buck.
Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you, Chair Ornschalt. The original bill language had seemed to indicate that the innovation zone would subsume any other governmental entity inside it. And so how will authorities and services of existing governmental agencies be protected?
Thank you for the question, Senator Buck, and very, very nice to meet you in person. I don't have an answer for that today. It's a great question. It's a very good question. We don't have final bill language yet, which details the protections that would occur for the surrounding local governments and impacted local counties. This is exactly why we want to, the governor's asking this to be moved to a joint special committee in the interim, so that that particular topic can be discussed at length in what would hopefully be a multiple-hour committee hearing on just that topic, as opposed to 1 or 2 questions in a very jammed time here at the legislature. But it's a great question, and those are the exact kind of questions we hope to have answered within that special committee.
And if I may just
Please go
follow.
ahead.
So will there be extra representation from the agencies around that area on this committee?
Yes, if I understand your question correctly, for the record, Scott Gillis, sorry, I'm rusty at this. For the record, Scott Gillis. In terms of the committee membership, that will be left to the speaker and the majority leader and the minority leadership to identify who will be on that. That's what the concurrent resolution proposes. In terms of stakeholders, we hope any and all stakeholders are engaged and get involved in the discussion and come to the committee and talk about their concerns.
I just hope that, if this can go on the record, I just hope that it's someone that is impacted directly in this area. So often our Southern Nevada constituents, legislators come up and do things to Northern Nevada. So I want to make sure that there is a voice in this committee from Northern Nevada that's directly impacted by it.
Thank you, Senator, and if I may, Chair, that is exactly our hope as well.
Thank you very much. And I don't see in the resolution requirement for geographical diversity, but I think that the appointments probably, would reflect that by the leadership of the two houses. Senator Seaver-Scancer.
Mr. Chair, I see the same thing. I see 3 representatives from each house, and then input from different types of entities or I guess, what did it say? Actually, it doesn't really speak to that. It talks about the topics, and it does not talk about geographic disbursement, but the inputs from stakeholders, including without limitation, local governments, tribal governments, environmental groups, labor, economic development, water authorities, advanced technology industries, and global interests. So it doesn't necessarily have the communities either, but maybe that's, not limited to.
Certainly, I would think that if the bill passes in this form, that the leadership who makes those appointments would want, legislators from all parts of the state to serve, especially from areas that might be most affected. All right, any additional questions, members? All right, not seeing any additional questions. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Gillis. We appreciate you being here, and you're welcome to stay if you like to, but if you have to leave, we understand if you have to head back to the governor's office, but otherwise we'd like either way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 11 here in the committee room who would like to come forward? Not seeing anyone else in support. Broadcasting, if we can go to the phone lines.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. For callers wishing to testify in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. We will begin with caller with the last 3 digits of 517. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Danny Thompson, DannyThompson. I'm here today representing IBW 1245 and IBW 396, Operating Engineers Local 3 and Operating Engineers Local 12, to speak in favor of the study of the Innovation Zone bill. I think this bill represents, or this issue represents, the biggest opportunity in Nevada to diversify our economy, and probably the biggest opportunity to put Nevadans to work. And we believe that, after the questions are answered, that people, once they understand, and all the questions about governance and impacts on other governments are answered, I think everyone will agree that this is a great opportunity for Nevada, and we certainly so wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
Next caller with the last 3 digits of 529. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Owen Shaw, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Ken Evans, EVANS, President for the Urban Chamber of Commerce. Calling to support Senate Concurrent Resolution 11 to do a focused study for an innovation zone implementation. From our standpoint, it meets 2 priorities. Number 1, diversify and expand the economy. And number 2, make sure that it's done in a manner that captures diversity and inclusion, both in terms of entrepreneurship opportunities as well as employment opportunities. So to that end, we definitely hope that you support it and move forward with this. And what we would also hope is, regardless of the specific location of any innovation zone, that consideration would be given to making sure that there are either employment opportunities or entrepreneurship opportunities that permit people that may not currently reside in the immediate area to come and participate, depending on what the opportunities are. So having said all that, again, applaud this effort and encourage your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three digits of 813. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 813, you may now begin your testimony. Caller, we can hear you. If you can press *6 to unmute yourself, you may begin your testimony. My apologies, Chair. We lost that caller. We will move on to the next caller.
Thank you, Broadcasting. And if you could,
Caller with the last.
perhaps they'll call back. I think that may be Trent Poole, who, but maybe we can check back at the end and see if he's been able to call back in.
Yes, Chair. Thank you. Next caller with the last three digits of 942. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes to speak and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 942, please press *6 to unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Russ James, Regional Director of District Council 16 of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. Nevada has made many recent gains in working towards diversifying our economy. We've been very successful in getting new and existing tech companies to relocate to Northern Nevada. This, in turn, provides good paying construction jobs and many good longer-term opportunities in the tech sector of our economy. Housing prices have escalated rapidly in Northern Nevada, and we need jobs that will keep up and allow our best and brightest to stay and work here. While there's still some details to be worked out, I think Nevada owes it to our children and our students to explore this opportunity for Northern Nevada. We approve of creating the interim committee to explore this opportunity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three digits of 534. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Yeah, this is Skip Daly. Last name is D-A-L-Y, representing the Labor Union Local 169. And I wanted to call in and add my name and our organization's support for the Senate Concurrent Resolution 11 to have a study on the innovation zones. I think, as was testified a little bit earlier by the presenters, that this subject and topic is worthy of further discussion, more than we're going to be able to do in the last 20 days of the legislative session. And I think this is the right direction forward for transparency and to fully vet this issue. We are in support of the innovation zones being looked at and, if appropriate, approved. Full support of the implications of the jobs and the economic impacts that we believe will be positive for Nevada if the innovation zones are approved. So I think this study is the next logical step to support that goal. So we're in full support, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Next caller with the last three digits of 229. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Arnshaw and committee members. My name is Dr. Anthony Slonim, S-L-O-N-I-M for the record. I am the President and CEO of Renown Health in Reno. I am here today on behalf of Renown Health to stand in support of SCR 11. We believe that a study to evaluate innovation zones and their potential impact on economic and workforce development, which may provide insights for health and healthcare workforce, is of significant importance to Nevada as we look at ways to grow our economy. We urge your support of SCR 11. Thank you for the opportunity to participate today.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three digits of 286. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, my name is Anthony Viscuso, and I'm a representative. I'm a business agent for Local 16 Heat and Frost Insulators, and that's spelled ANTHONYVISCUSO. And we would just like to stand in support with the rest of the building trades. We believe this is a great opportunity, and we would like to see it progress. Thank you.
Thank you. We will take the next caller with the last three digits of 244. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Boileau, B-O-I-L-E-A-U. I'm the Deputy Political Director of the Operating Engineers Local 3. We're calling today in support of Concurrent Resolution 11. We are enthused by the fact that it specifically mentions labor as a stakeholder that needs consultation as the innovation zones are studied for implementation in Nevada. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three digits of 796. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Rusty McAllister with the Nevada State AFL-CIO. That's RUSTYMCALLISTER. We are also in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution number 11. We believe that at a time when Nevada's constantly having the discussion about ways to diversify our economy and change it from being just a two-horse state with gaming and mining, this is a good opportunity to investigate new things to do for our state and to increase the economy, increase jobs, increase the workforce. And for those reasons and all the reasons stated by the previous speakers, we're in support of this resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, caller. Next caller with the last three digits of 774. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Brittany Kaiser, BRITTANY-KAISER. I'm the chairman of Griffin Digital Mining and a director at the Blockchain Center Foundation, and I'm pleased to be speaking today in support of SDR 11, specifically because I am a supporter of innovation zones and new ways to use legislation and policy in order to promote large-scale economic development. I personally have spent the past few years working on congressional subcommittees in different states, creating sandbox legislation, special economic zones, and producing opportunity zones as well, which have been incredibly successful in driving economic development, new jobs, and investment in parts of states that otherwise had stagnant growth for many years. So I'm very excited about this, particularly in Nevada, because I have plenty of friends and colleagues who are business owners and private landowners in the state of Nevada that, should the innovation legislation eventually be created and go through, that they would immediately be looking to create jobs and develop in the state of Nevada under these new rules. So I'm here in full support, and I'm really looking forward to any questions from the committee and a positive reception for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three digits of 400. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 400. Please press *6 to unmute yourself to begin your testimony.
Yes, this is Brock Pierce, Thank you for the opportunity to speak. BROCKPIERCE. I'm an entrepreneur, philanthropist, technologist, venture capitalist, and I'm a patriot that cares deeply about the well-being of our country and our nation. I'm glad that the technology and the innovation has allowed us to come together here. I'm speaking to you from Puerto Rico. I've done many things in my life, one of which is digitizing the U.S. dollar in Tether, a company I co-founded that's doing $60 trillion a year in transactional volume. And I speak to members of our Congress on a weekly basis, and I am so committed to innovation. We are living through the fourth industrial revolution, and our future depends on us supporting innovation. We have a lot of problems. We are living in the 21st century, and we have solutions to all of them. And I hope that you approve and support innovation, because that is the only way out of the mess we currently find ourselves in.
Thank you, caller. We will take the next caller with the last three digits of 292. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon. Rob Benner, ROB-BENNER, with the Northern Nevada Building Trades. I'm here to testify in support of SCR 11. Northern Nevada Building Trades has signed a cooperative development and labor agreement that would cover the entire city and ensure that all development uses highly skilled, good-paying local union labor. A project this size will benefit the entire state, not just Northern Nevada, and will keep our workforce working in the event of another downturn. We believe this project is worth your study and consideration and urge you to support SCR 11. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Next caller with the last three digits of 090. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Chelsea, CHELSEA, Capurro, CAPURRO, here on behalf of the Nevada Subcontractors Association. We're here in support of this issue becoming a study, and particularly taking a closer look at how this concept could affect construction in the state. We look forward to being part of this study during the interim and participating in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three digits of 227. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes to speak and may begin.
Hi there. My name is William Pete, and I'm that's WILLIAMPETE, and I'm the CEO of a company called Energy Ledger, and we are here in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 11. And I'm here on behalf of the Blockchain Center Foundation as well, and we support this because there's a very big opportunity to create green-collar jobs, jobs in the sustainability energy sector, to, be able to work with blockchain and develop it within an innovation zone that is kind of using the nimbleness and flexibility that the states have to, develop these brand new companies that can bring in new revenue and new opportunities for job growth, all sorts of things that weren't presently there and have kind of been taken away during these hard times. I really, truly believe that through Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, we can achieve some of this, and it's a huge step forward to creating these green jobs. And, companies like mine, Energy Ledger, would be able to take advantage of such a situation and, be able to potentially, do work in Nevada, due to the provisions of this bill. I think this is this resolution. I think this is a wonderful thing, and I'd definitely like to, echo my support and make sure everybody hears. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller with the last three digits of 694. please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, my name is Scott Fullerton, SCOTTFULLERTON. I'm the district representative for the Operating Engineers Local Union Number 3 here in Northern Nevada. We are in support of SCR 11 and its study concerning innovation zones. We believe the diversification that this will offer Nevada is greatly needed compared to the current economic situation that we have. We also believe that it has the potential to offer great jobs for highly skilled individuals here in Nevada, and also we believe it has a commitment to not only provide the good jobs for today's working men and women, but to develop a good workforce for the future, which will benefit all businesses moving forward. And I appreciate your time on this, and again, we are in support of SCR 11. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. We will go back to caller with the last 3 digits of 813. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
My name is Trent Poole, TRENTPOOL. I am one of the directors with the Blockchain Center Foundation. We have had a lot of our stakeholders and members, people in our community testify today. Just to be clear, we are not associated with Blockchains LLC or any other blockchain entity that is testified in other hearings, although we have testified in favor of some of their bills. We are an organization that was began in 2013 on Wall Street, right across the New York Stock Exchange by Nick Spanos and some of his partners, with the goal of educating and empowering legislators and people that work in regulatory agencies in New York City and Wall Street to explain the benefits of distributed ledger technologies, blockchain, and decentralized finance. And that was 8 years ago. Today, we're doing a lot of cooler things, offering classes and empowering legislators and people in your position. Thank you, by the way, Chairman Orenshaw and members of the committee. I didn't say that because I had to give my name starting off, but we really appreciate this opportunity. And if any of you guys do need a course or are curious to dabble in understanding more about distributed ledger technologies, blockchains especially, or anything that would implement decentralized standardized operating procedures and innovate, we would love to offer that to you guys. And we could certainly figure out a good curriculum to help y'all. We really appreciate you guys considering SCR 11. We are strongly in support of it. We believe that the future to finance, the future to probably all industries is going to incorporate a lot of things that are on the cutting edge and in the emergent technology sphere, including blockchains, especially for a lot of the energy use cases and production commodities and things of that nature. And so we really are excited to be able to be with you guys in this committee and offer feedback, advice, or help you guys bounce ideas around on things that might be beneficial to study. Like I said, we've worked with legislators in over a dozen states, and we are helping advance and advocate for implementing and innovating on all spheres so we can keep competitive in our 21st century economy. Thank you guys so much and appreciate being here.
Thank you, caller. If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no further callers in support at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. I will now go to opposition to Senate Concurrent Resolution 11. First, here in the committee room in Carson City, if there's anyone who wants to speak in opposition, please come forward. Thank you for your patience.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Annette Magnus, and I'm the Executive Director of Battleborn Progress. We rise in strong opposition to SCR 11 and this flawed, dangerous innovation zone proposal as a study. At a time when our state is facing unaffordable housing crisis, lack of access to adequate affordable health care, a poorly funded education system, it is grievously inappropriate the amount of time and energy spent this session discussing the proposal to give a billionaire CEO and an unproven company their own autonomous form of government. We have been here before. I've seen this my entire life in this state. We went through this with the Raiders Stadium, where proponents assured us that if you build it, they will come, and that it wouldn't cost Nevada taxpayers very much at all. That clearly didn't last, as we told you all it wouldn't. We went through this with Faraday Future, who promised investments and jobs. That clearly collapsed quickly as well. Now we're debating to study whether to give a billionaire his own autonomous government for a magical thinking pipe dream. The CEO's own words have said, "We have not made any money, and we have not actually figured out where we will extract fees." Even worse than that, even worse than previous boondoggles, this time we truly have no idea what Nevada is supposedly getting out of this deal, or how this will even create jobs, or how it generates revenue, or more importantly, what they will even be innovating. On its face, this blockchain quasi-county would require stealing water from tribal governments who were not consulted before blockchain started buying the rights. It also raises serious concern about the setting of precedent for the return of company towns, which is exactly what this is, regardless of how you try to dress it up. While this resolution only requires the study of this proposal, we remain extremely concerned that proper input will not be sought, nor that input will be heeded in whatever the final report concludes. This legislature and this committee has the ability to reject this ridiculous concept here and now, instead of once again falling for the fine-tuned presentation pitch of a big company promising the moon. My dad always taught me that if something was too good to be true, it usually is. We should not be wasting time or money studying this. We should be hearing the death penalty bill, AJR 1 from special session, and more. Actual priorities to Nevadans. Please vote no on SCR 11 and have a real conversation about raising revenue in a sustainable and long-term way, and support Nevadans who are suffering, instead of another handout to a billionaire and a corporation that will fail like all the previous ones have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Magnus. Thanks for your testimony. Anyone else here in Carson City in opposition? All right, broadcasting, if we can go to the phone lines. Anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to Senate Concurrent Resolution 11?
Thank you, Chair. For callers wishing to testify in opposition of Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to testify in opposition of Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers in opposition on the line.
Thank you. We'll come back to the hearing room in Carson City. Neutral. Anyone who's neutral on the measure who wants to be heard, please come forward. Thank you for your patience.
Hello, I'm Will Adler with Silver State Government Relations. Silver State Government Relations proudly represented Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, Story County, and Tahoe Reno Industrial Center's GID this year on the matters of innovation zones. Innovation zones was a concept that first came forward to a large amount of opposition, mostly because of the size, the scope, and the timeline provided in the 2021 legislative session. Seemed like it was incompatible with the size, scope, and the proposed project of innovation zones. But we're here today in neutral because we are looking forward to the discussion provided by SCR 11 and what it could accomplish in the interim study which is to provide. Silver State Government Relations looks forward to taking part in that study because of the joint the joint committee's goal and scope of addressing the concerns of local and regional governments, tribal governments, and addressing the concerns regarding water and water usage with innovation zones. Thank you, and I appreciate you hearing this subject today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adler, and thank you for your advocacy. Anyone else who wishes to speak neutral?
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw, members of the committee. My name is Dagny Stapleton. I'm the Executive Director of Naco, the Nevada Association of Counties. We are neutral on SCR 11 and appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony today. When the idea of innovation zones was introduced, the proponents reached out and presented their concept and preliminary language to counties, and county representatives did share a handful of concerns with them at that time. In March, our members unanimously voted to oppose the concept as it had been presented to counties, and that vote included representatives from 16 of Nevada's 17 counties, both urban and rural. Concerns included fiscal impact, impacts to county services, as well as preserving the integrity of county governance. We appreciate SCR 11 and want to thank the Governor's Office for the proposed study to look at and analyze issues connected to the concept of innovation zones prior to any innovation zone legislation being introduced. We also appreciate the language in the resolution recognizing the important role that counties would play in the study committee. We look forward to participating in the study and providing any and all information that would be helpful. Again, our thanks to the sponsor and the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stapleton. And anyone else neutral who wishes to be heard here in Carson City?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, Mary Walker, M-A-R-Y-W-A-L-K-E-R. I'm representing Carson, Douglas, Lyon, and Story counties. We are neutral on SCR 11, but we would like to thank the governor and the legislature for SCR 11 study concerning innovation zones. We appreciate the even-handed approach of the study, which includes studying the impact of innovation zones on counties, but also on local revenue and taxation. Because while it has been stated that there is no state revenue or taxation impact, there is tremendous local revenue and taxation implications. So I appreciate that that is going to be reviewed. We're looking forward to being a part of the study, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Good to see you here in the building. Anyone else neutral on the measure here in Carson City? Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Austin Osborne from Story County. I'm the Story County manager. Story County is supporting a neutral position on this. The Board of County Commissioners on 4 separate occasions throughout the year had voted a little bit of a mixed bag on what was known so far at the time. As far as technology, blockchains, cryptocurrencies, those sorts of things, the board is totally in favor of those sorts of matters as long as the state puts together the right framework for their implementation. The residential component, including the smart city and the idea of having high density and all that out at Painted Rock in Story County has been suggested so far. The board has supported that. Our master plan also supports that. As far as separation from government and anything related to that, our board has strongly opposed that. So at this point, we're voting neutral with this interim study, which are all being proposed. We believe that this interim study will find these things, that separation from government is not necessary and is not appropriate. If you look out at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center and other parts of Story County, the brick and mortar really shows itself. Tesla, Google, Switch, 20 million square feet of other companies that do research and development, technology, waste to energy, green energy, everything you can imagine is all done through complex development agreements that we put together and embrace. We have a tax increment area that pays for a regional affluent pipeline project that we were part of and embrace. We have a government services agreement with Tesla where there's no taxes paid, but we still embrace that because we offset our cost and we welcome it. We were part of SB1 that some of you were also involved with, brought data and big companies to our state. We have a general improvement district out at Tri and Story County that provides all the utility services out there in a very efficient manner. And we provide all of these companies out there 30-day building permits and 5-day grading permits. And we would do the same thing for any company that wants to come in the future, including those in proponent of this bill. We do believe that we are the innovation zone as it is currently. As far as the smart city goes out at Painted Rock, our master plan was completely updated in 2016. through community workshops rigorously over 3 to 7 years. We completely rewrote our zoning ordinances and our subdivision ordinances and the water elements of those ordinances to accommodate the Painted Rock housing development. That project was also approved by the Board of Story County Commissioners and the Planning Commission through rigorous public workshops in 2006. And that action is also reflected in our master plan. So at this point, we are still neutral on this, but really we just ask the applicants to submit an application and they can build all of the things that are being proposed so far. We will roll out the red carpet for the types of developments that are being proposed without separation from government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Osborne.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Adler with Silver State Government Relations, and today I'm honored to present to you the testimony of Janet Davis, Tribal Chairwoman of the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe. The Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe would like to indicate their neutrality on SCR 11 and the study of innovation zones. Pyramid Lake was opposed to the concept of innovation zones when first introduced due to the lack of transparency and tribal inclusion. We would like to thank the governor and the authors of SCR 11 for their thoughtful inclusion of tribal perspectives and ensuring the study will also consider the impact of the potential development on the natural resources of the area, including water. In addition, we would like to note that any analysis of the potential for the creation of new forms of governments, such as an innovation zone, should protect the tenets of adjudicated agreements, such as the Truckee River Operating Agreement, and must include the need for government-to-government consultation with Native American tribes. Thank you for your consideration, Janet Davis, Tribal Chairwoman.
Thank you very much, Ms. Adler, and thank you to Ms. Davis, or Chair Davis. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair Orenshaw and committee members. For the record, my name is Clay Mitchell, C-L-A-Y-M-I-T-C-H-E-L-L. I'm a Story County Commissioner. First of all, we are grateful to be included in this discussion and for the thoughtful questions from the committee. Second, as Ms. Walker mentioned, we're particularly thankful for the inclusion of local jurisdiction governance and taxation issues in the scope of the study, as both the potential impacts and opportunities are substantial with a proposal like this. We are supportive of the study process and look forward to being active participants. We're testifying in neutral on the resolution because, as my county manager stated, we maintain that, at least in the case of Blockchains LLC, a separate, new, and untested political subdivision is unnecessary to accomplish the stated goals of the proponents. Further, Story County is ideally suited to provide a venue for a project like this as it currently stands. In Story County, the door is open. We're prepared and enthusiastic to facilitate innovative projects such as the one proposed by Blockchains LLC. Again, our position is neutral, and we look forward to participating in any study that comes forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Can I ask you a quick question? Where does Story County stand in terms of water resources for projected growth or for big projects like this one or another project? Do you have adequate water resources? Or
So honestly, my county manager is probably the better one to answer that. I've been on the job about 4 months at this point. But my understanding is that any new development, the proponent or the people coming forward with the development are required to procure water resources for their project. And so that would be a condition of any approvals that we give at the county level. We do not necessarily supply water. There is a GID, and Mr. Adler may be able to talk more about that because he represents them. Yeah, we are, of course, concerned about water usage, and that's got to be a major part of the conversation.
Thank you. Well, that might be a topic for this study if this becomes law.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else who wishes to speak neutral to the measure here in the hearing room? All right, not seeing anyone else. Broadcasting, if we can go to the phone lines. Anyone who wishes to speak neutral to Senate Concurrent Resolution 11?
Thank you, Chair. For callers wishing to testify in neutral of Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. We will begin with caller with the last 3 digits of 833. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you. My name is Sherry Whalen, SHARIWHALEN. I'm the general manager for the TRI General Improvement District in Story County. TRI General Improvement District is the water and sewer utility serving the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center and the surrounding area in northwestern Nevada. The district was established in 2001 by Story County pursuant to NRS 318. Today, we manage a water resources portfolio of over 12,000 acre-feet of groundwater and Truckee River surface water. We also collaborate on management of an additional 4,000 acre-feet of treated effluent under contract to serve an expansive and innovative regional water reuse system that's currently under construction. For 20 years, TRI-GID has served as one of the most flexible and dynamic local governments in the state of Nevada. This is evidenced by the huge success and positive economic impact of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. We're proud of our reputation as a nimble and responsive organization, efficiently meeting the current and future needs of our amazing and diverse customers. In February 2021, TRI-GID was notified of potential legislation providing for the creation of innovation zones in Nevada. The criteria by which an innovation zone could be created currently exists within the TRI-GID service area, thereby creating potential impact to the district's customers. In fact, 97% of the land owned by blockchains in Story County is within the boundaries of the TRI-GID service area. This is, Staff immediately engaged in understanding the concept and framework for innovation zones by attending informational meetings with blockchains and their lobby team, as well as reviewing draft legislation language, summary information, and the economic impact study presented on, the Innovation Zone Facts website. On March 2nd, 2021, the TRI-GID Board of Trustees voted unanimously to direct staff to negotiate with blockchains to resolve the concerns of the district related to potential legislation on innovation zones. After receiving this direction from our Board of Trustees, TRI-GID staff began to meet and communicate with R&R partners and blockchains on a regular basis. In concert with the blockchains team, the district identified and refined the following concerns related to the innovation zone concept. One is a potential residential encroachment into the district's non-residential service territory. Two are the assumptions and projections of the innovation zone economic impact study. Three is the innovation zone potentially usurping the district's governance, authority, and powers. Four is the innovation zone application process and impact to the eminent domain powers of the district and other local governments. And five is the innovation zone impact on existing contractual obligations related to water and sewer service and infrastructure. The district and the blockchain team continue to communicate regularly on the innovation zone concept throughout March and April. These meetings were generally productive, and the collaborative discussions made progress on some of the items outlined above. If the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections chooses to adopt Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, TRI-GID is interested in continuing this collaboration. It is our goal to support and advocate for the interests of the district's existing and future customers by providing ongoing input to the special committee. It is our intent to maintain the ability and the district's statutory authority to continue to operate efficiently and to provide statutorily defined services within our district in a fiscally and environmentally sound manner. We will make our team available at your convenience to continue this endeavor. And if I may, I can answer some questions about water resources within the service area at the discretion of the chair. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I just was wondering, in terms of current projections for growth for this area, the GID, do water resources seem adequate?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are sufficient water resources to continue development within the TRI-GID service area. However, under the economic impact study that was created by the Innovation Zone, there's about 5,000 acres of land to be developed inside of Story County, outside of the district service area, in the Painted Rock area. And to my knowledge, at this time, the water resources have not been. Maybe the appropriate way to say is we're not aware of a plan to serve water to that area. However, that is outside of the district service area. Within the district service area, there is water allocated for the land that's planned to be developed.
Thank you, Ms. Whalen. Thank you very much. Members, any additional questions? Okay, not seeing any. Broadcasting, if we can go back to the phone lines. Anyone who's neutral on the measure?
Thank you, Chair. There are no other callers in neutral on the line.
All right, well, thank you very much. And Mr. Gillis, any closing comments you'd like to make? We appreciate you being here to present Senate Concurrent Resolution 11.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just close by saying thank you to the committee for hearing this today. Obviously, thank you to Speaker Frierson and the Majority Leader for their support of the governor on this process and this proposal. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Mr. Fernley for working not only on this concurrent resolution, but the underlying proposal. Really appreciate that.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Fernley. We're very lucky to have you here at LCBN as our committee counsel. Well, thank you very much for being here. We'll now close the hearing on Senate Concurrent Resolution 11. And Assemblyman Hafen, thank you for your patience. We'll open the hearing on Assembly Bill 166.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Senators. It's great to be in front of all of you to introduce Assembly Bill 166. For the record, my name is Gregory Hafen II, and I am representing Assembly District 36. Existing law under NRS 294A348 currently requires individuals, political action committees, political parties and committees sponsored by a political party to clearly identify who paid for the communication within the communication. This is required when an individual or entity spends more than $100 for the political advertisement, and the communication is created to advocate for the election or defeat of a candidate, a group of candidates, or to solicit donations. However, this provision is slightly dated and specifically applies to communications through television, radio, newspapers, magazines, outdoor advertising, and mailings. Although there is a caveat that catches general public political advertising, text messages has fallen through the cracks. In summary, Assembly Bill 166 is not a very complex bill. It is simply to modernize campaign disclosure requirements in Nevada by making sure text messages from a person, a PAC, a political party, or committee sponsored by a political party to disclose in the text message the name of the individual or entity who paid for the communication. And I want to elaborate just a little bit on that. This would not be the standard disclosure. The standard disclosure requires you to say, Friends of Gregory T. Hafen II, with my address and everything else. This is to try to adopt and adapt into the text message realm where we're limited to the characters, and it could be as simple as me adding a bit link to my website so people know that it was me that paid for it, or it could be as simple as saying, this is Assemblyman Hafen, blah, blah, blah. To be more consistent with the modern technology. To be more consistent with the current law, this would only be required when an individual or entity spends more than $100 of communication for advocation for the election or defeat of a candidate, group of candidates, or to solicit contributions. And having said that, I'll try to keep this shorter than the last presentation and see if there's any questions.
We appreciate that, Assemblyman. Any questions, members, for Assemblyman Hafen? Senator Sievers-Gansert.
Thank you, Chair Ornshall, and welcome again. So do you have an idea? I don't know how many characters you can actually have in a text message, and so you just said that you could have a link to a website or a link to something. So what's typically the characters for a text message, character count?
Through you, Mr. Chair.
We can go directly to the Senator. Thanks.
Senator Gansert, so there's a variety of companies that use different character limitations. Some will limit you to 160 characters, where others will actually limit you to 320 characters. I don't know that anybody's going beyond that currently, but then there's also the option to include some sort of digital photo or digital advertisement in addition to that. I don't believe there's much of a price difference in the character limitation. I think that it just has to do with the vendor. And that is why I mentioned the bit link. Those that are not familiar with the bit link is you could take a very long website that could take up this entire page and shrink it till it's only about this big and take up one line in a text message. Because the intent of this is to adapt to the modern technology. And I think we all saw during the COVID pandemic text messages becoming more and more popular means of communication and advertising for campaigns.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Senator Sievers-Cancer?
Thank you. I'm just looking at the list. So I think that makes sense. So they're used on tweets all the time, right? So the short link. But you have political action, political party, committee sponsored by a political party that paid. You know, sometimes I've seen them come through from nonprofits. I'm just kind of, I think the intent is right, and I just want to make sure that we capture everyone and that what you actually have to disclose does not take up most of the text so that people don't have a limit in communications. So I think that probably does it, but then you have the name of the person, committee, political action, political party, or committee sponsored. And in any case, I did see that there were texts going through by like nonprofits and things like that. So I guess we just want to make sure we capture everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sievers-Cancer. And please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's the intent, is to be consistent with the current law, but to expand it to expand into the text message realm without becoming overly burdensome with the current requirements for disclosures by shrinking the disclosure requirement.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lang.
I noticed the Deputy Secretary of State, I think, is on. Hello. I have a couple questions for you. Could a nonprofit send a text message that's political? I don't think so.
Thank you, Senator Mark Voloshin, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, for the record. Interesting question. I will have to look into it and get back to you. I'm not 100% certain if a nonprofit is able to send a political text message. I will find out and get back to you, though.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question, in section 3, where it says that the people that would send out these messages that we would have to report their name. Do you feel like that's the complete list, or do you think we're missing anything there?
Thank you for the question, Mark Voloshin, for the record. Senator, we did talk with Assemblyman Hafen about this bill. We considered it and had some discussions internally. Outside of the lists that were identified in the wording to the bill, there were no other entities or organizations that we identified that would be useful to incorporate. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. And Assemblyman Hafen and I had lots of conversation about this bill, so I think I'm finished with my questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Any additional, Senator Buck?
Thank you, Chair Orangehall. I was just wondering, how will this bill be enforced?
Thank you, Senator. So I actually had some of the data pulled in regards to this. Currently, the enforcement, and Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, currently text messages are being enforced on when complaints are filed with the Secretary of State's office. Those are investigated. And in our discussions is that the intent here would be that if there is a disclosure on here, or the requirement, 90% of people are going to comply. I think every single one of us in this room would probably want our website on any kind of communication to direct people towards any kind of advertising we'd want to do. This should make the Secretary of State's job easier in investigating those 90% because they'll know exactly where to go. The additional 10% that don't comply with this would go through the current process that's currently being done at the Secretary of State's office to investigate those, which is to go to follow the phone number to the vendor. The vendor then would have to pull the data and then provide who the individual is. But it would be the same process that's currently under place for these are my numbers, just throwing out random statistics, making me sound really intelligent. But that is my understanding. And Mr. Wasson, if you want to chime in and add to that, that'd be great.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And exactly as you said, the process as it currently is laid out, Mark Voloshin for the record, we would investigate it starting with our civil compliance investigator and then moving on to criminal if it deemed appropriate. And there's a number of methods already we've identified and discussed on how we could attempt to pursue and enforce compliance if Assembly Bill 166 were to be passed.
Thank you very much. Any follow-up? Vice Chair Lang.
I know it's probably in the bill somewhere, but this would only apply to text. It wouldn't apply to tweets, just text.
Senator, that is correct. The intent of this is specifically text messages. When it comes to social media, that is something that completely outside of this bill, and how the Secretary of State's office currently addresses those is the means that would continue.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Majority Leader Canizara.
Thank you, Chair Orenshaw. And Assemblyman, I wanted to make sure that we were clear here, because as I'm looking at the bill, obviously, NRS 294A 348 in Section 1 already includes the same type of language for newspapers, radio, magazines, television, outdoor advertising facility, mailing, other type of general public political advertising. And what you're trying to do is add the same or similar requirements to when somebody spends more than that $100 using text messages, to simply identify who that text is coming from.
That is absolutely correct. And we had conversations early on about maybe just sticking text messages in the front part. But then the conversation was like, well, then you're making them subject to the full long disclosure of, in my case, friends of Gregory T. Hafen II at 5250 Hafen Ranch Road, blah, 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 blah. And so we felt that now you're taking up most of the characters by just having to disclose my entire disclosure. And so that's why we decided another section under there would be more appropriate, so we could adapt to this new technology, which I guess text messages is not that new. However, in the campaign realm, it is slightly newer.
Thank you, and I think that that gets to the second point that I wanted to make, was that we are really just talking about disclosing who that is coming from, not the same type of disclosure that you might see on like a mailing that would go out or other advertisement that you might purchase. And I think you've answered that, so I appreciate it.
And Senator, that is absolutely correct, so thank you.
I guess the only question I have is then, if this passes and someone is not complying with this rule for campaign text messages, what are the penalties? Or are they already existing in statute, or are they fines to be determined by regulation?
So there would be no new penalties added to this. This was just to add the text messages into the current structure, which I'm going to have to defer to the Secretary of State. I've never gotten in trouble for anything, so I never had a reason to look at that.
In which case I can look that up. So I can look that up offline. But thank you very much for presenting the bill, and I guess if there are no other questions, we'll open it up to support. I don't see anyone here in Carson City in support, but I'll go to the phone lines. Broadcasting, if there's anyone on the phone lines who wishes to speak in support of Assembly Bill 166.
Thank you, Chair. For callers wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 166, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers in support at this time.
Right, thank you. We will now go to opposition. I don't see anyone in the committee room here in opposition. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to speak in opposition to the measure?
For callers wishing to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 166, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. I don't see anyone in the committee room here. We'll go to neutral. I don't see anyone here. So broadcasting can go to the phone lines. Anyone who wishes to speak neutral to the measure.
Thank you. For callers wishing to testify in neutral of Assembly Bill 166, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to testify in neutral of Assembly Bill 166, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers in neutral at this time.
Right, thank you very much, Assemblyman Hafen. Appreciate your willingness to to move your schedule around to present today. Thank you. Any closing comments you'd like to make?
I'd just like to say thank you very much to you, Mr. Chairman, and to the committee members. It was great to be here. Spent half my day here in this committee room when other committees, so it's been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for your patience. Appreciate it. We'll now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 166, and we'll open it up for public comment. I don't see anyone in the committee room here for public comment, so broadcasting, if we can go to the phone lines for public comment.
Thank you, Chair. For callers wishing to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers for public comment at this time.
Thank you, members. With that, we are adjourned.